So, have you ever wondered why some of the largest corporations on the face of the planet keep using the same failed strategies over and over, losing so many hundreds of millions of dollars? I'm talking about companies like Disney, but in this case specifically about the video game industry. I have played quite a few games in the past. I've been a gamer since I was quite little, and I can tell you this was destined to happen. $200 million down the drain for a game 8 years in development that didn't last 2 weeks. Within 10-11 days, it was already over. This is, I think, a first in the history of gaming where the largest corporations put on hundreds of millions of dollars, 8 years of development, and couldn't even get 2 weeks worth of players. They even promised to refund it all. And why? Because they keep on making the same mistakes over and over and over. So let's read a bit here. This is why did Concord fail? 5 reasons why the game ended up as a 200 million USD flop. Now, spoilers, they're not going to get it right. They're saying Sony has pulled the plug on its highly anticipated game Concord. Anticipated by who? Just 2 weeks after its disastrous launch, a game that took nearly 8 years to make turned into a damp squib within 10 days of its rollout, with fans calling it one of Sony's biggest disappointments. So essentially, they're saying that the high price for $40. Today they market some games for, it used to be that 60 was the standard. Now you get 80, 100, 120. Prices are insane. They think that the high price of $40 is what stopped it. It's a hero shooter game, and essentially they're saying that the genre is flopping. Games like Overwatch, Apex Legends, and Valorant remain popular. The newer ones are instantly shunned by the fans. That is not true. I can tell you that the games Overwatch, Apex Legends, and Valorant aren't doing that well, especially Overwatch. I used to play it back many years ago and it was just launched, and it wasn't bad. Since then it went downhill, and player opinions, I think, in general, kind of reflect it. So I don't think I'm out of touch on this one. I think if a good hero shooter came out, a lot of people would be happy to play it, but this was not it. They're saying that poor graphics is another core problem with the game. It's visually unappealing. For any gaming fan, Concord wouldn't work because it doesn't qualify for the standards set today by gaming developers. It's tried to channel the 70s sci-fi era, and it still looks terrible. Yeah, it looks terrible, but why does it look terrible? And finally, the gameplay isn't that good. They're saying that it isn't that bad from a gamer's perspective, but a product coming after 8 years of its announcement, and that too from Sony and at $40, deserves to stand out. The gameplay just falls short, they're saying. Well, I think mainly they were skirting around the issues, the real issues for this. Here's a little survey that says that gamers value graphics over gameplay and story. They're basically saying that the factors influencing decisions to purchase video games, quality of the graphics, 67% people put it as the top priority. Then price, interesting story, online gameplay capability, and so on. I don't think this is quite true, that the gamers value graphics over gameplay, but what factors into the decision to buy a game, because you don't get to play them usually. We don't do demos anymore. Some indie games do, and I'm happy to support them. I'm very for the idea of having demos so you can try before you buy. But today, AAA games don't have demos at all, and as a result, what influences your decision to buy it is if it looks good. Yes, quite a bit. There's also the fact that the visuals are part of the experience. If you had a restaurant that had very good food that looked terrible, it would struggle. It would eventually find a niche, perhaps, but it would very much struggle because, especially when you're just starting out, visuals are a big part of human decision making. It's what you can see. You can't experience the taste without buying it. The same for video games. So Concord looks, well, let's take a look at some of these characters, shall we? I'm not sure how well you can see, the pictures are a bit small here, but that's what I could find. But these characters, they look ugly, or old, or fat, gender ambiguous, and I'm not sure why anybody would choose to play this. The graphics in general are not good at all, in my opinion, and it's indicative of something. Bad graphics, bad gameplay, unappealing graphics on top of just low quality. It's indicative of something. It's something that gamers have learned to identify, and I think many consumers in general learn to identify. If you have this sort of art style, especially for the characters, then you know that this game has had diversity foisted upon it. There's been quite a brouhaha about certain companies being sort of advisors and how to put it, the sort of culturally enriching video game companies like Sweet Baby Inc., for example, with opinions that are woke, very modern left sort of thing. And as a result, you see that there's sort of a war on femininity. The female characters are not allowed to be feminine. They either look old or fat or ugly, or some of these combined, or they just look as though they were, let's say, not assigned female at birth. Massive jawline, broad shoulders, short cropped hair, very, yeah. And not only do people not like this, but they also know that it comes with bad gameplay, because the people who like that sort of aesthetic and want to foist it upon the players tend to value the color of your skin or what you do in the bedroom over your ability to actually make good games. They think meritocracy is awful, essentially. And we learn to identify this sort of, how to put it, ordering of the world, the value totem pole, and we decided that we don't want it because it creates awful games. And I say we, not as in I am a representative, but just it seems as though a lot of people agree with me, because these games fail time after time, causing losses of hundreds of millions of dollars every time, and they simply don't learn from it. Now, this is an IGN article trying to do the same exact thing of excusing the politics into video game part of the deal, and trying to find alternative reasons why the game failed. For example, they're saying that you better not show up 8 years late. I think the timing was actually excellent. At this point, Overwatch 2 released, and it flopped. And now there's space in the market for somebody new to come and take over. That's not what caused the game to fail. They are also saying that there's no appetite in the market at all for it. They're saying things like Blizzard correctly judged the appetite for a Team Fortress 2-like shooter that adopted the hero kits of MOBAs. Others get it wrong. Basically, they're saying that there's no market for it, there's no demand for it. That's not how to put it. They're also saying it took too long. They're saying one solution that's been bandied about is to make shorter games. That's not going to work, because essentially what you're going to get is gamers that find you don't value their time and money. You give them a short game for the same price because they're not willing to reduce the price. That's out of the question. Not to mention, I'm not sure somebody would bother with a short game for lesser price. But regardless, it's not on the table. What you'd get is the same or even most slightly discounted price for a shorter game. Just another excuse to be incompetent, essentially. Because that's what they've been doing for a while now. Being incompetent and then trying to excuse it many different ways. I also want to point out that nobody wants politics in their escapism, their entertainment. It could be fine if it's subtle and thought-provoking, but woke politics in any entertainment media is about as subtle as a brick to the face. It literally lectures you. Nobody wants to be lectured. Even if you agree with them, you don't want to be lectured on your time off playing a video game. That's not what you're there for. And it's not what you're there for when you watch a movie or a TV show or people read comics or something. I heard there's plenty of the same there. But whatever you use for entertainment, you want to be entertained. You're not there for someone to teach you how to view the world correctly, you bigot. So, small surprise, it just keeps failing. Sony is losing out of money. They had a certain financial success with, what was the name of that game? I think it was Helldivers, something of the sort, on Steam. I wasn't too interested, but the main problem they had there was after they became successful, they tried to force the players to jump through hoops and create an account for some sort of Sony specific website or launcher, giving a lot of their private information out. There were plenty of countries where it was simply not available, and it also required a certain degree of censorship to be accepted by the players. And all of that post-launch felt like a betrayal and like the shifting of the goalposts, as if, assuming people accept this now, it will become the standard and they'll simply keep pushing. So people were reacting very negatively. There's no trust in large corporations anymore. In fact, there's a great degree of hostility and mistrust. People feel as though their time, money, private information, and freedom of speech are all being slowly eroded over time. Prices increase, quality decreases, censorship increases, privacy disappears, everything becomes online only, constant surveillance, more and more behavior and speech online is restricted, and the quality of the product just keeps dropping. So people don't give much grace to these companies anymore. And I think that's a good thing, because without pressure from the audience, we're going to keep seeing a deterioration of standards in all sorts of entertainment. It doesn't matter whether you enjoy TV. I hear that the people, sports fans, which I'm not, have been complaining about sports channels. Obviously, movies, I've mostly stopped watching them. I used to watch some, but modern day movies don't really interest me. I can tell you that it's become much harder to find good books to read in bookstores. I basically stopped visiting them. I am an avid reader, and I mostly read online. And I hear the same from people who read comics, obviously. You have both Xbox and PlayStation facing the same problems. I'm mostly PC gamers, but it's universal. It's a sort of global cultural trend. I honestly don't know how could we be more blunt with them. By we, I mean people who don't like what they're doing, who don't like the new products they're putting out, and don't like the insertion of politics into entertainment. They are losing hundreds of millions of dollars per product, and they keep doing it. Amazon does the same thing, Sony does the same thing, Blizzard, Ubisoft, they all just keep failing and then keep going. And there's no end in sight, it feels. Well, there has been a bit of a shift. We have heard about some firings of diversity officers and the like. And you might be wondering, why do I feel good about people being fired? To put it simply, it feels as though they are there specifically to make the product worse for me. I don't want any product they are associated with, they had a hand in. So long as they're there, I will have nothing new to enjoy, at least from the big name titles. I have been mostly playing games that are indie games by small developers, and mostly reading books that are by less known and sort of self-published or small publish online authors. Because again, everything that is mainstream, everything that is big name, feels as though it's corrupted really by that ideology, and there's no escaping it. Just think, if you can make a product, why would you go for something that half the population by default would not enjoy because they disagree with your politics? You're very blunt, you're very preachy of your politics, and half the population would not give it a chance. And then from the other half, it seems as though most don't like it either, because your business practices produce inferior products that nobody wants to consume. So it feels as though preaching to the public is the goal. The investment of money is not there to make a profit at all. It is to sort of band your politics about. Make it, I'm sorry if there's a bit of noise. Make your politics as well known and take as much cultural space as possible. That's what you're spending money on. They acquire a big name title one after another, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, etc. And they just burn through them until they lose all cultural meaning. All the fans abandon ship. They declare anything new to be essentially not canon for them, not part of the same thing as the old, and they just refuse to view or play or consume it anymore. So I just feel as though this burning of money for cultural relevance is very artificial, top down, and I wonder how long it can last. Do these people have infinite money to keep doing this? It also shows me that modern sort of woke leftism is not what most left-wing people today support. Because if it was, then you'd have at least some players for this. You wouldn't end up shutting down your $200 million 8-year development game within 10 days if you had half the population willing to play it. The thing is, there have been rapid changes in what it means to be left-wing in the last 2 decades or so. If you go back 2 decades, I myself would have told you I was left-wing. And I think a lot of people who vote left today still hold values of 5, 10, 15 years ago, but they're just not too immersed in politics. And so they don't understand that the left has left them behind. And modern day politics no longer has room for dissent, at least on the left. On the right, there's a large variety of opinions. But on the left, you really have to be culturally and socially and politically on the same page, or else you are no longer considered part of the tribe. And these people support left-wing politicians, but not left-wing product, because this shows the sort of disconnect between the two, between the people who consider themselves left-wing, who are tribally left-wing. They wouldn't hear of it if you told them to try and listen to, let alone vote, for anyone who's not part of the Democratic Party establishment or whatever it is in their countries. But at the same time, they just outright reject products that are built upon the foundation of left-wing values as they are today, because they mostly hold those of, again, 5, 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, tell me what you think caused Concord to fail. If you have any advice for me as I'm a beginner on YouTube, I would love to hear it, and if you choose to support me, I'd appreciate it very much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.